What if the most famous car in television history was built on a mountain of destruction? What if Warner Brothers lost hundreds of them and can't find them today? What if the original hero car was never supposed to be orange? This isn't just a Dodge Charger with a paint job. It's a machine built on chaos, wrapped in controversy, and destroyed faster than they could build them. The General Lee hides truths that'll shock even hardcore Dukes fans. Number 20. They destroyed over 300 Dodge Chargers, making the show. Here's something that'll make classic car collectors weep. During the show's 7-season run from 1979 to 1985, Warner Brothers completely destroyed between 321 Dodge Chargers, making it the single most destructive production in television history. The production team wasn't just denting fenders or breaking windows. They were obliterating priceless muscle cars every single week. Each jump sequence required multiple takes, and the cars rarely survived even one landing intact. The famous freeze-frame jumps you see in the show, those were editing tricks to hide the fact that the Charger's frame buckled on impact, the suspension collapsed, and the engine often broke loose from its mounts. Stunt coordinator Gary Baxley revealed that after a typical jump, the car would land so hard that all 4 wheels would splay outward. The doors would pop open despite being welded shut, and transmission fluid would spray everywhere. The production budget allocated $7,000 per car, so they bought every 1969 Charger they could find across America, regardless of condition, then stripped them down for jump scenes. Number 19. The show accidentally created a permanent Dodge Charger shortage that exists today.
Hey Steve, just real quickly, what's the story about this car when it was filled up with cement and...
The Dukes of Hazzard didn't just destroy cars during production, it permanently altered the classic car market forever. Before the show premiered in January 1979, a 1969 Dodge Charger was considered a decent muscle car, but nothing particularly special or valuable. Collectors preferred Chevelle, GTOs, and Mustangs. The average Charger sold for around $2,000 in decent condition. But once General Lee became a cultural phenomenon, demand exploded overnight while supply vanished. Warner Brothers had already bought and destroyed hundreds of the available 1969 Chargers, removing them from the market permanently. Suddenly, everyone wanted a General Lee tribute car, but the donor vehicles simply didn't exist anymore. By the mid-1980s, a surviving 1969 Charger commanded $15,000. Today, they regularly sell for over $100,000, with pristine examples reaching $200,000 or more. Dodge only manufactured around 89,000 Chargers in 1969 total. Warner Brothers destroyed nearly 1% of all 1969 Chargers ever made, creating an artificial scarcity that transformed these cars from affordable classics into 6-figure collectibles. Number 18. The doors were welded shut because of Boss Hogg's fat suit.
Welding the doors shut. What are you doing that for? Well, you weld the doors shut on a racing car for safety's sake.
I didn't have time to fix everything. Right.
Everyone knows the Duke boys always climbed through the windows of the General Lee, but the real reason behind those welded doors has nothing to do with looking cool. It started with Sorrel Book, the classically trained Shakespearean actor who played Boss Hogg. Book was actually a thin man in real life, but the character required an enormous fat suit that added over 70 pounds to his frame. During the pilot episode filming, production designed a running gag where Boss Hogg would chase the Duke boys and try to squeeze into the General Lee through normal doors, creating physical comedy. But test audiences found it cruel and uncomfortable rather than funny, so the writers scrapped the concept entirely. However, by that point, the stunt team had already welded the doors shut on 12 of the primary cars to save weight and reinforce the frame for jumps. The welded doors reduced flex during landings and prevented the doors from flying open mid-stunt, which had happened repeatedly during early test jumps. Rather than reverse the modification, the producers just made window entry part of the show's signature style, turning a practical necessity into an iconic character trait. Number 17. They use miniatures for the most dangerous jumps, and nobody could tell. The Dukes of Hazzard's most spectacular jumps weren't actually performed by full-size cars. For jumps exceeding 80 feet or involving complex mid-air rotations, the production team relied on radio-controlled miniatures built at 1/8 scale by effects supervisor Jack Sessoms. These weren't cheap toys. Each miniature cost $4,000 to build and featured working suspension, realistic weight distribution, and detailed paint matching the hero cars. The production filmed these miniature jumps at high speed, using a technique called overcranking, shooting at 96 frames per second instead of the standard 24. When played back at normal speed, the miniatures appeared to move with the exact mass and momentum of full-size vehicles. The famous jump over the police cars in the episode Dead and Alive, where the General Lee rotates mid-air. That was a miniature filmed against a blue screen and composited into real footage. Even the show's stunt drivers couldn't distinguish the miniature shots from real jumps when watching the final episodes. The production used miniatures in approximately 40% of all jump sequences across the show's run. Number 16. The original hero. Car was painted Corvette, flame red, not orange.
Coming out of Cruder's garage.
Thus, General Lee's iconic bright orange color wasn't the original plan, and it almost never happened. When production designer Vahan Musekian first painted the hero car for the pilot episode in 1978, he used Chevrolet Corvette Flame Red, a bright cherry red that tested well with focus groups. But when director Rod Holcomb filmed the first chase sequence in sunlight, the red created a visual problem. Against the dusty Georgia back roads and brown landscapes, the red Charger didn't pop on screen the way producers expected. It looked muddy on film, especially in wide shots where the car needed to be instantly recognizable. Musekian experimented with 15 different colors over 3 weeks, testing each one in various lighting conditions. He finally settled on a custom mix combining Chevrolet Corvette Flame Orange and Ford Grabber Orange, creating a unique shade that existed nowhere else in automotive history. This hybrid orange had slightly more yellow undertones than either donor color, making it glow on camera even in low light. The original Flame Red hero car still exists in a private collection in Tennessee, where it's been authenticated through paint analysis and production documentation, matching the pilot episode filming dates. Number 15. Warner Brothers bought every available Charger in the country, including police cars. By season 3 in 1981, Warner Brothers faced an unprecedented crisis. They'd destroyed so many Chargers that the supply of available donor cars completely dried up. Stunt coordinator Paul Baxley sent buyers to every junkyard, used car lot, and classified ad across America. But 1969 Chargers simply didn't exist anymore. So, Warner Brothers made a controversial decision. They bought retired police package Dodge Chargers from law enforcement agencies across the South, cars that had been pursuit vehicles in the late 60s and early 70s. These police Chargers featured reinforced frames, heavy-duty suspension, and upgraded brakes, making them actually superior to civilian models for stunt work. The production also purchased over 40 Charger variants, including Charger RTs, Charger 500s, and even base model Chargers from 1968 and 1970, then modified them to look like 69 models. They swapped grills, taillights, and body panels, creating Frankenstein cars that combine multiple model years. One famous General Lee, used in season 4, combined a 1968 body, a 1969 front clip, a 1970 rear panel, and a police package frame from a Georgia Highway Patrol car. Collectors who've analyzed surviving screen-used General Lees have identified at least 17 different model year combinations. Number 14. The signature jump sound effect was actually a 2005 Mustang. Every Dukes of Hazzard fan knows that distinctive metallic scraping sound when General Lee lands from a jump. But here's the thing. That sound effect wasn't recorded from any Dodge Charger. Sound designer Gordon Davidson recorded it decades after the show ended. In the original broadcast episodes from 1979 to 1985, the jump landings used generic crash sounds from Warner Brothers' stock audio library, the same effects used in dozens of other shows. When Warner Brothers remastered the series for DVD release in 2005, they hired Davidson to create new enhanced sound effects for modern surround sound systems. Davidson needed a metallic scraping sound that would represent a heavy car bottoming out on its frame. He drove a 2005 Ford Mustang GT onto a steel ramp at low speed, then dragged the car's exhaust system across corrugated metal sheeting while recording at high fidelity. That metallic screech, layered with suspension creak sounds from a 1998 Chevy Suburban, became the signature General Lee landing sound that younger fans associate with the show. The original broadcast episodes sound completely different, using generic hollow thuds that lack any of that iconic metallic texture. Number 13. John Schneider drove the car. With no stunt training and nearly died multiple times,
is the accident that we had on Dukes. There are many stories of...
When John Schneider was cast as Bo Duke at age 18 in 1978, he'd never performed a car stunt in his life. He'd barely driven anything more powerful than his mom's station wagon. But Warner Brothers insurance wouldn't cover stunt drivers for dialogue scenes inside moving vehicles. So, Schneider had to do all his own driving during regular filming, including high-speed chases on public roads. The production gave him exactly 3 days of training before filming began. Stunt coordinator Gary Baxley taught Schneider basic J-turns and handbrake slides in a parking lot, then threw him into filming 40-mile-per-hour chase sequences on narrow dirt roads. During the season, one episode, Money to Burn, Schneider lost control during a chase scene, rolled the General Lee twice, and crashed into a concrete drainage ditch. The impact broke 3 of his ribs and gave him a severe concussion. He was back filming 4 days later. Schneider estimates he crashed the General Lee at least 15 times during the first 2 seasons alone, incidents that never made it into the show because the cameras weren't rolling. The production eventually hired his stunt double Corky Fornoff to handle the most dangerous sequences, but Schneider still performed approximately 60% of Bo Duke's driving stunts across the show's run. Number 12. They installed aircraft cable inside the car to keep it from splitting in half.
Went ahead and installed some of these Dixie horns on the front of my UTV.
The General Lee's most dangerous structural problem wasn't the welded doors or gutted interior. It was the fact that the intense jump landings literally tore the cars apart at the seams. After the first season's jump sequences, engineers discovered stress fractures forming along the Charger's rocker panels where the floor met the body, essentially splitting the cars in half longitudinally. A Dodge Charger's unibody construction wasn't designed to handle the vertical forces of landing from 20-foot jumps at 40 miles per hour. By season 2, the production modified every stunt car with military-grade aircraft cable. They drilled holes through the frame rails and rocker panels, then threaded steel cable from the front subframe through the passenger compartment to the rear axle mounting points, creating an internal skeleton that held the car together. Each stunt car used approximately 80 feet of 3/4-inch braided steel cable, rated for 12,000 pounds of tension. Even with these reinforcements, the cars would still develop visible gaps between body panels after hard landings, requiring constant welding repairs between takes. One season, 4 stunt cars split completely in half mid-air during a jump. In the episode, Witness for the Persecution, separating at the B-pillar, both halves landed separately, the front section cartwheeling, while the rear section slid sideways. Miraculously, stunt driver Gary Baxley walked away uninjured. Number 11. The Confederate flag created a secret war between actors and studio executives, 0.15 to 0.
Hey, what's that? Look, I changed the flag.
Nice roof, redneck. Join us in the 21st century?
The General Lee's controversial rooftop Confederate flag sparked behind-the-scenes battles that almost destroyed the show. From day one, actors Ben Jones and Sonny Schroyer privately objected to the flag, arguing it would alienate audiences and damage the show's legacy. Jones, a Georgia native who played Cooter, wrote multiple letters to Warner Brothers executives requesting the flag's removal, suggesting alternatives like a checkered racing flag or solid orange roof. Studio executives refused, claiming the flag represented Southern heritage and rebellion rather than racism. By season 3, the tension exploded. Several writers quit over the issue, and multiple black actors refused guest star roles. James Best, who played Sheriff Roscoe, threatened to walk off the show if the flag remained. Warner Brothers finally compromised. They agreed to film alternate versions of certain scenes, with flags digitally removed for potential international broadcasts, though these alternate versions were never actually used. The production also added more prominent black characters in supporting roles starting in season 4, attempting to offset criticism. After the show ended, John Schneider stated publicly that keeping the flag was the show's biggest mistake. When Warner Brothers released remastered DVDs in 2015, they controversially kept the flag in all episodes, reigniting debates that continue today. Number 10. They lost the original hero, car for 27 years and found it in a junkyard.
And you know, box TV and little picnic table. Now, after watching,
we are about to get into the General Lee. Now, it's not
the actual hero car used for close-ups in the first 2 seasons, serial. Number XS29L9B154373. Disappeared after filming, wrapped in 1981. Warner Brothers assumed it had been sold at a studio auction, like hundreds of other General Lees. For 27 years, nobody knew where it went. In 2008, a metal scrapper in rural Alabama named Travis Bell bought a pile of crushed cars from a defunct junkyard. While processing the scrap metal, Bell noticed orange paint and the number 01 on a partially crushed door. He stopped the crusher immediately and pulled out a mangled but identifiable Dodge Charger. Bell contacted Warner Brothers, who sent authentication experts to examine the car. Through chassis numbers and unique production modifications documented in studio records, they confirmed it was the original hero car. The Charger had been sold to a private collector in 1982, who stored it in a barn for 15 years. When that collector died, his family sold the property, including all vehicles, to the junkyard operator, who never realized what he had. Warner Brothers bought the car back for $87,000 and restored it over 3 years. The restored hero car now appears at official Dukes of Hazzard events, though it's too valuable to drive anymore. Estimated current value exceeds $3 million. Number 9. The Dixie horn cost more than the entire car.
You just put fittings on the ends. There's a fusible link here with a 30 amp fuse.
That famous Dixie horn that played the first 12 notes of "I Wish I Was in Dixie" wasn't a simple aftermarket accessory. Each horn system cost $11,000 to manufacture in 1979, significantly more than the $7,000 budget for each stunt car. The production partnered with Wolo Manufacturing Corporation to create custom electronic horn units that could survive the brutal jump impacts without breaking. Standard musical car horns of that era used mechanical trumpets that would crack and fail after a single hard landing. Wolo designed a solid-state electronic system with no moving parts beyond the speaker diaphragms, housed in shock-mounted enclosures that absorbed impact forces. Each General Lee carried 4 separate horn speakers mounted inside the front fender wells, connected to a computerized controller under the dashboard. The controller triggered precise electronic tones that replicated the Dixie melody, but with enough volume to be heard over screaming engines during chase scenes. The system drew so much electrical current that cars needed upgraded alternators and heavy-duty batteries. Production installed these expensive horn systems in only 7 cars, the hero vehicles used for close-ups and dialogue scenes. The stunt cars used cheap replica horns that didn't actually work, with the Dixie sound added in post-production. Number 8. Stunt drivers. Deliberately bent, the frame before, every jump to improve landing. Here's a technique that sounds insane but actually worked. Before major jump sequences, the stunt team would deliberately bend the Charger's frame using hydraulic jacks. pre-stressing the metal in specific locations to control how the car would deform on landing. Stunt coordinator Gary Baxley developed this technique after analyzing slow-motion footage of failed jumps in Season 1. When a stock Charger landed nose first from a jump, the front frame rails would buckle randomly, sometimes causing the car to flip or veer sideways unpredictably. Baxley realized that by pre-bending the frame rails slightly upward at the front suspension and mounting points, he could create controlled crush zones that absorbed impact energy consistently. The stunt team would jack up the front of the car, place wooden blocks under the frame rails, then slowly lower the car's weight onto the blocks until the frame bent exactly 3 inches. This pre-bend caused the front suspension to compress more smoothly on landing, reducing the chance of dangerous flips. They also pre-bent the rear frame rails downward by 2 inches to prevent the back end from bouncing violently. These deliberate frame modifications meant every stunt car was structurally compromised before it ever performed a jump. The cars would be destroyed regardless, so bending them first actually made the stunts safer for drivers. Number 7. They secretly used a 440 cubic inch engine that Dodge never offered?
All right. Hit it.
The General Lee's engine specs are famous, supposedly a 383 cubic inch Magnum VF8, Dodge's standard big block option for 1969 Chargers. But that's Hollywood fiction. The production actually installed Chrysler 440 cubic inch RB engines in most stunt cars, a monster motor that Dodge never offered in Chargers. The 440 came from Chrysler's parts bin for Imperials and heavy-duty trucks. Why the larger engine? The 383 couldn't generate enough power to achieve the speeds necessary for the show's massive jumps while carrying all the added safety equipment and camera mounts. Engineers calculated they needed at least 400 horsepower to hit the 55-mile-per-hour speeds required for 20-foot jumps. A stock 383 produced around 330 horsepower. The 440, with minor modifications like upgraded carburetors and headers, easily made 420 horsepower. The production team pulled 440 engines from wrecked Imperials and New Yorkers, then painted them orange and stamped fake 383 Magnum markings on the valve covers for close-up shots. John Schneider and Tom Wopat had no idea about the engine swap until years after the show ended. Even today, many General Lee tribute builders install the historically inaccurate 440 engine because it's what actually made the stunts possible. Number 6. The roll cage wasn't just for safety, but actually made the stunts more dangerous.
This, by the way, in my car is a brake pedal for the rear wheels only.
Every stunt car featured a complete tube frame roll cage, which sounds like a smart safety feature. But here's the deadly twist. The roll cage actually increased injury risk during jumps by creating a rigid internal structure that transferred impact forces directly into the driver's body. In a standard car crash, the body panels and frame deform progressively, absorbing energy over time and slowing the deceleration rate. This crush zone effect reduces G-forces on occupants. But the General Lee's roll cage prevented the passenger compartment from deforming at all. When the car landed hard from a jump, all that impact energy went straight through the rigid cage into the driver's spine and skull. Stunt drivers regularly suffered compression injuries to their vertebrae despite wearing 5-point harnesses and helmets. After stunt driver Tommy Allen fractured his L4 vertebra during a Season 3 jump, the production modified the roll cage design. They added rubber isolation mounts between the cage and the Charger's frame, along with crushable foam blocks at strategic points inside the cage. These modifications helped slightly, but the fundamental problem remained. Several stunt drivers from the show now deal with chronic back problems directly attributed to the rigid roll cage design. Modern stunt cars use much more sophisticated cages with built-in energy absorption, technology that didn't exist in 1979. Number 5. Warner Brothers paid farmers to grow dirt roads, specifically for jump sequences. The Dukes of Hazzard's famous dirt road chases weren't filmed on existing country roads. Warner Brothers literally had those roads built from scratch. The production purchased agricultural land in 5 different locations across northern Georgia, then hired earth-moving contractors to construct custom dirt roads designed specifically for vehicle stunts. Each road cost approximately $40,000 per mile to build, with engineered grades, compacted surfaces, and carefully planned sightlines for camera placement. But here's the weird part. Between filming seasons, Warner Brothers leased this land back to local farmers with a strange requirement. The farmers had to actively use and maintain the dirt roads, driving tractors and equipment across them regularly to keep the surface properly compacted and realistic looking. If the roads sat unused, rain would create ruts and vegetation would encroach, making them unusable for filming. So Warner Brothers essentially paid farmers to grow crops on studio-owned land, while maintaining stunt roads as part of their lease agreement. This arrangement continued throughout the show's run, and even after cancellation. 2 of these original stunt roads still exist today on private property in Covington, Georgia, now overgrown, but still recognizable. The landowners give occasional tours to hardcore Dukes fans, charging $50 per person to drive their own cars, on the same dirt roads where the General Lee once flew. Number 4. The paint job required 9 different colors mixed in specific weather conditions.
Color they had. They mixed up a color and painted a 60.
The General Lee is one of the most replicated TV cars. I mean, it's fairly...
Creating that perfect General Lee orange was far more complex than mixing 2 paint colors. Production painter Vahan Musekian developed a 9-step process that could only be executed in temperatures between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity below 40%. The base coat started with Chevrolet Corvette Flame Orange, but that was just layer 1. Musekian added specific amounts of Ford Grabber Orange, Plymouth Vitamin C Orange, and even small amounts of Porsche Signal Orange and Ferrari Rosso Corsa Red. Each color contributed specific properties. The Grabber Orange added yellow undertones for camera glow. The Vitamin C Orange provided depth and shadow. The Porsche Orange improved durability, and the Ferrari Red created richness and sunlight. The paint mixing ratios changed seasonally because Georgia's humidity affected how colors appeared on film. Summer cars needed more yellow pigment to offset humidity's blue tint. Winter cars needed more red to compensate for flatter light. Musekian kept detailed logs documenting exact mixing ratios for each car painted on specific dates. But Warner Brothers lost these records when they closed the studio paint shop in 1991. Today, nobody can perfectly recreate the authentic General Lee orange. Modern tribute cars use approximations, but side-by-side comparisons with original screen-used cars reveal noticeable differences in color depth and sheen. Number 3. The General Lee's insurance policy cost. More than every car combined.
Well, every time we jumped the General Lee, it had to be towed away, with a few
Warner Brothers' insurance policy for the General Lee became legendary in Hollywood for its absurd cost and bizarre requirements. Lloyd's of London, the only insurer willing to cover the production, charged $1.2 million annually for liability coverage, more than the combined purchase price of all the Chargers used during an entire season. The policy contained truly insane clauses. If any member of the public was injured by a piece of the General Lee during a stunt, even a flying hubcap or broken taillight, Warner Brothers would pay unlimited damages. If any stunt driver died during filming, Lloyd's would pay his family $10 million, but would also cancel the policy immediately, shutting down production permanently. Most bizarre, the policy required Warner Brothers to maintain a minimum inventory of 12 intact General Lee stunt cars at all times. If the count dropped below 12, filming had to stop until more cars were prepared. This clause created constant panic during seasons 4 and 5, when Chargers became nearly impossible to find. The production literally had scouts driving across America with checkbooks, authorized to buy any 1969 Charger on site, regardless of price. At one point, Warner Brothers paid $45,000 for a single rotted Charger with no engine or transmission, simply to maintain the 12-car minimum. Lloyd's of London still references the General Lee policy in insurance training materials as an example of high-risk entertainment coverage. Number 2. John Schneider bought a screen-used General Lee, and it's legally not a car.
So what we're going to talk about today are the 5 mistakes that people make when...
I think we're about to find out what the fellow did.
In 2007, John Schneider purchased one of the original screen-used General Lees from a private collector for $58,000, wanting to own a piece of his own history. But when he tried to register it for road use in California, he discovered a shocking legal problem. The car doesn't legally exist as a vehicle. During production, Warner Brothers cut so many corners modifying the stunt cars that they never properly documented the changes with the DMV or obtained salvage titles when they rebuilt wrecked Chargers. Schneider's car combines parts from at least 4 different vehicles: a 1969 Charger body, a 1970 frame, a 1968 front clip, and a drivetrain from a 1972 Dodge pickup truck. The VIN plate doesn't match any factory records because someone replaced it during production. California DMV classified the car as an unidentified assembled vehicle, essentially automotive Frankenstein's monster that can't be titled or registered. Schneider can own it as personal property, like furniture, but he can't legally drive it on public roads. He keeps it in a climate-controlled garage and occasionally trailers it to car shows. Dozens of other screen-used General Lees suffer the same legal limbo, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars as collectibles, but unable to be legally driven anywhere. Some owners have successfully registered them in Montana or South Dakota using more lenient kit car laws, but most states simply refuse to acknowledge these vehicles exist. Number 1. Warner Brothers buried 17 General Lees in a Georgia landfill to avoid taxes. Here's the darkest secret in Dukes of Hazzard history, and it'll make you sick. In 1986, 1 year after the show ended, Warner Brothers faced a massive property tax bill for all the vehicles, sets, and equipment still stored at their Georgia facilities. Rather than pay taxes on vehicles they considered worthless scrap, studio accountants made a calculated decision. They hired a demolition contractor to crush 17 damaged but restorable General Lees, then bury them in the Covington Municipal Landfill. These weren't completely destroyed stunt cars. They were hero vehicles and backup cars with superficial damage that could have been repaired and preserved. Warner Brothers literally chose to destroy television history rather than pay $23,000 in property taxes. Environmental regulations in 1986 were lax, so burying cars in municipal landfills was technically legal. The demolition contractor, Ray Holcomb, later admitted he felt terrible crushing the cars, but needed the work. He kept detailed records showing the exact burial location, approximately 40 feet down in the landfill's southeast quadrant. Those 17 General Lees remain buried there today, encased in 40 years of garbage and decomposed waste. Several collectors have approached the Covington City Council about excavating the site, offering to fund the entire operation. But environmental concerns about disturbing the sealed landfill make recovery legally impossible. Warner Brothers never publicly acknowledged this disposal, and most fans have no idea these cars exist in an underground automotive graveyard. 20. Weird facts proving the General Lee's legacy is built on destruction, controversy, and corporate decisions that destroyed automotive history. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's most iconic vehicles. Them Duke boys never had it easy.